On social media and YouTube.
I wonder if there'll be a moment when we stop calling it social media and it's just media. We're sort of like, is that really a thing now?
Okay. We got the thumbs up from the booth, and we are ready to go live. Welcome to the Tuesday, July 6th Town Council meeting. Councilwoman Pelletier, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Sue, do us the honor of attendance, please.
Councillor Biggs?
Present.
Councillor Flanagan? Councillor Forrest?
Present.
Councillor Hill?
Here.
Councillor O'Connor? Councillor Pelletier?
Here.
Councillor Pentelow? Deputy Mayor Mazzarella?
Here.
And Mayor Rell.
Here. Thank you, Sue. And we'll start it off tonight. We have public comment. Anybody wanting to speak? Michelle?
Thank you. My name is Michelle Lavoie, 16 Westwood, and I'm here in support of Chief Citran and against the actions of the council. 47 years, serving and protecting, putting himself in harm's way for the good of the community, taking the blows of the media in stride, building a community strong in justice, community action, and safety, creating an environment that serves the public need for safety, educating our children, keeping them safe, building bridges within the school system to create public confidence, personally protecting our former mayor when her safety was in question. It was a lifestyle, not a career. Wethersfield, behind the leadership of Chief Citran, is nationally accredited. CALIA, the accreditation program, provides public safety agencies with an opportunity voluntarily to meet an established set of professional standards. Those standards require comprehensive and uniform written directives that clearly define authority, performance, and responsibilities, reports and analysis to make fact-based and informed management decisions, preparedness to address natural and man-made critical incidents, community relationship building and maintenance, independent review by subject matter experts, and continuous pursuit of excellence through annual reviews and other assessment. Wethersfield, along with CCSU, UConn, Connecticut State Police, Avon, Berlin, Bethel, Bloomfield, Coventry, East Hartford, East Haven, Enfield, Farmington, Glastonbury, Granby, Guilford, Madison, Manchester, Milford, New Canaan, North Haven, Norwalk, Rocky Hill, Simsbury are all accredited. Let's jump back to April 2019. Let's get some facts straight. I actually did the research back then. Black Lives Matter is a nonprofit organization whose money back in 2019 funded violence as grassroots initiatives overseas and solely went to the Democratic Party in the US. $0 had hit the ground benefiting any lives. They also are a hate organization against the police. Factually, they themselves donated to a California BLM organization, but when they found out that that organization was funding community efforts with police to gain public confidence, they sued them, took back their money, and made them change their name. Prejudice and racism are based on personal opinion, and hate is taught. Don't judge a group on the actions of a few. Yet, with BLM supporting criminal behavior, police accountability, and defunding police, here we are. And the result, higher crime, retiring police officers, no new prospects. Who would want a job where people boast your life doesn't matter? If any lives really mattered, the protesters that day would have been furious about the reckless regard for human life, the maliciousness of the criminal, and the risk of human life not only to the officer, but his passenger and everyone in harm's way. His choices cost him his life that day. The officer was cleared of wrongdoing. He is not the criminal, nor is our chief who hired him. He did his job that day, and as my kids were traveling on that road at that time, that day, I was glad he acted in the way he did. I thought that morality and integrity of this town was based on the actions of its citizens and holding them responsible for being law-abiding and respectful, not cowering to false pretense and narrative that protects and exhibits as rightful, felonious criminal behavior over the safety and lives of our children and the community. I was present at the special session. I was appalled, disgusted, and embarrassed by the actions of the council and the town manager. The accusations toward town manager were not denied, but the truth remains that as of today, there is still no job description for the police chief on the SGR website. Our town manager pleading a case of all the time he spent working on getting the new chief up to that point in May is invalid, an embellishment in the least, or a lie, which I believe, although it came a little late to that meeting, was his promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. How does one promote a job without a job description? It's apparent then that his actions to replace chief up to that date were merely underhanded and malicious. To the council and the council's attorney, a lesson in contract law. An unconscionable contract is one that is one-sided or so unfair it shocks the conscience. The court deems such contracts unenforceable. A transaction in which one side benefits isn't a legal contract in the eyes of the law. Even if it is, in writing, and both parties have signed it, it is invalid and not enforceable. Therefore, the focus on the contract and how it was not for the town manager or the town, but solely for the chief, is a ridiculous presentation of the lack of knowledge in regards to how contracts actually work. Anyone handing personal trophies to the town council that evening for coming together under the intent, deniability of civil rights, a right to a fair trial, unethical practices, workplace harassment, and age discrimination, you just negated everything you claim to stand for. Everyone should be embarrassed and concerned as to what our town will look like under the direction of a town manager who is immature in dealing with confidential and sensitive information, encourages sexual harassment, and creates a hostile work environment. The actual job description for the town manager provided candidates should have at least 10 years of experience in managerial, financial, and executive level decisions in a local government.
Ms. Lavoy, we don't have a town manager here tonight, so I'm kind of running a stop clock or stopwatch on my phone. So if you've got 30 seconds to wrap up.
Okay, it leaves me with two final statements. First, a plea to the Ethics Committee to review the rules of practice and ensure our ethics are being followed by our leaders. And secondly, retirement is a personal decision, not an executive decision. When an executive decides someone needs to retire and they force that individual out, that is age discrimination and it is illegal. Thank you.
Okay, I neglected to say, we do have a 5-minute rule. Typically, we can go over a couple, 30 seconds, a minute, but there is a second half to public speaking, and I'll try my best to give you guys kind of a warning, but we don't have a stopwatch, excuse me, up there for you. So keep it to about 5 minutes, and then if you have more to say, we do have the second half. Next person to speak. Mr. Kruk.
Hello, David Kruk, better known as Rocky, 149 Broad Street. I'm speaking a little bit far from the mic because I saw on YouTube and I sounded all garbled and I realized I was just too close to the mic and it was just garbling on my sound. And I'm glad it's on YouTube, and I saw the last meeting got over 200 viewers, and I don't think we would have got that if we put it on the Weathersfield site, because I don't think many people go on the Weathersfield site to watch meetings, and if they did, it would be harder to find a meeting. And on YouTube, it's easy. Just type in Town of Weathersfield, and the meetings just show up, and you could watch it anywhere. So it's great. I'm glad that's a new change. I don't think I'll be a celebrity from being on YouTube through these meetings, because it's still low numbers, but I want a little comment about the 5 minutes. I was never for the 5 minutes. I could see it with, when you only got a handful of people, 5 minutes is fine, and you should probably allow 5 minutes. But if there are times where you have a lot of people, and I did the math, say if you had 24 people, heated topic, and you let them speak for 5 minutes twice, that would be 4 hours. 4 hour long public comment, and I think in those situations you should cut it to 3, back to 3, because the meeting would just last forever. And but for small meetings like this, I know Weathersfield, West Hartford 6 to 3, but they have a lot more. They're a bigger town. They have a lot more speakers. I should have timed myself. See what I guess you'll tell me. But yeah, I don't have much to say about the police chief. I regret that the town manager's not here. I guess he could watch YouTube. But yeah, I feel bad for the police chief, because he invested 47 years of his life to protect and serve our community. And I remember every time he came here and he asked for money, whatever, and everyone was smiling with him. We always agreed with whatever he wanted because we knew he was doing a good job. And you say, "Bye, chief." Smiles, everybody. And then when some situation occurs, then you're firing him. You know, I don't think that was appropriate. And I hope it had nothing to do with this anti-cop movement, which is kind of swept the country, but I think it's kind of backing off now with the federal government giving money to cities, claiming that this money is for the police, to fund the police. I said, well, why did the cities cut the police force in the beginning with? The funding for police is a town, city issue. It's not a federal. Federal governments don't fund police. And it seems like they're just trying to bail them out because they realize that the city's made a mistake by cutting the budget. Fortunately, we didn't cut. I don't know if I think I saw the agenda. You might be cutting the budget. No, talking about the budget, but I don't know if you're talking about the police. But I hope you don't cut the police force. But fortunately, our city has been doing well as far as safety. And although I hear crime is picking up, not so much in this area, but all around the country, especially close to cities. And I just hope it doesn't spread, and it does spread. You know, unfortunately, if you're close to a big city, crime does spread over into the suburbs. But you know, I was a little more passionate last time I spoke because you know I was upset. I thought you would not fire the police chief, and you did. I said, oh, these guys are not going to fire the police chief, you know, over changing his mind about retiring, but you did, and I was kind of shocked. But you know, I'll probably vote for a lot of you anyway. This time I'm hoping Dan O'Connor might be mayor, maybe next time, because he's the only one that stood his ground and stood up for the police chief. And you know that takes guts to be the only one standing your ground. And unfortunately, there wasn't any more of them of you to support him. But that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Got it in at 4 minutes, so you split the difference, 3 and 5. Okay, Mr. Young.
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I agree with the prior speaker about the 5-minute rule. I firmly believe that if the, as he had said, if this room is packed, yes. But if the room is not packed, and like even look at tonight, you only have 8 or 10 people out here, and maybe only 3 or 4 are going to talk. And what's the difference in letting it run over a little bit? We have to listen to certain people sitting up here who ramble on and on and on. We've seen that in recent meetings. They just ramble on, all nonsense. But we have to, if we're attending, we have to sit and listen. And we keep quiet about that until now. I noticed in the Current, they had an article. It said room to roam. It was about a tract of land over in Manchester, 102 acres of land. This was I'm sure you all recall, prior to COVID, when we all met here, prior to COVID, I had spoke about a number of properties that were for sale, a number of them that had sold, up against the price that the town of Weathersfield went on contract with the Keisha family for that property. And, you know, I complained, 2.4 million was outrageous price for that property. And then we find out that the appraisal that was paid by the citizens of Weathersfield would not be released to the citizens of Weathersfield. And the total on that particular appraisal was $1.7 million. But our town council decided to pay $2.4 million. A little increase, I would say. And the sad thing is, the council refused to release that appraisal to the citizens prior to referendum. And I'm sure if every citizen read or got a whiff of what the value of that appraisal was, we would have never bought it for $2.4 million. That was a hell of a ripoff on the citizens of Weathersfield, and that was instigated by our town council, and we have two people sitting up here tonight who were part of that town council and never said a word. You talk about transparency, there is no transparency in Weathersfield. You want to talk about being truthful with the folks of your community? There is no truth that comes from these people. None at all, because they proved themselves back then, and even as of today, there is no one who has ever mentioned from the dais why we paid $2.4 million for a piece of property that on the high end of the appraisal, it was 1.7. Okay? Now, the other day in the Hartford Current, Rome to Rome, 102 acres of land sold, 102 acres sold for $1.7 million. $1.7 million in the town of Weathersfield, in the town of Manchester, for 102 acres of land. We bought at 32 acres for $2.4 million, and it went for referendum, and overwhelmingly, what was it, 50-60% of the people said they wanted it? But I wonder how many of those, if they had seen that appraisal that we paid for, how many would that have passed? I'm betting that would not have passed, and we wouldn't have been now on the hook for all that money. Now, the property in Manchester sold for $16,667 an acre. We paid $75,000 an acre at the Keisha farm. Highly overpriced. Well, you think Weathersfield is so fantastic that it warrants a price tag like that? Right across the hill, half a mile away, I think it was 14 or 15 acres sold for $600,000 in that time period, within a year or two of that time. And that's development land. So here we go. We have dishonesty up here at our town council. It should never go away. We should always be talking about this because this is part of our government in town. It's crooked, it's dishonest, and it is never going to be any better than that. So I'm so furious when I read, and I know back then these prices of other properties were selling for $20,000, $15,000 an acre, and we were paying $75,000. And you never said a word. Mr. Forrest, you never said a word. Everybody sitting up there, and you were the two that were on that council at that time, zip, nothing. So when you come up here and you ask them about being transparent, consider how the aspect went on the Keisha farm. And now we're really stuck, and we need to dump that thing. And I've made suggestions. And again, zip. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. We do not have any hearings or ordinances and resolutions tonight. Reports from boards and commissions. Anybody? Councilman Hill.
Thanks, Mayor. The library board met on June 22nd. It was a very brief meeting, the quickest one we've had. There was a discussion on the approved budget from the town council, as well as a discussion on some COVID mitigation efforts that will continue at the library. They're kind of taking more appropriate precautions because the library interacts with so many of our residents that they've decided to keep some of those measures in place for the near future. And if I also may have your indulgence, just to kind of alert the town and the council of, on July 28th at 5:30, the City of Hartford's Planning, Economic Development, and Housing Committee will be holding a special meeting on the Hartford City Council resolution to decommission Brainerd Airport. I just simply, as a liaison to the Noise Committee, I wanted all council members and public to be aware, but due to the fact that a decommissioned Brainerd would have a sizable impact on the quality of life, specifically in Old Weathersfield. But thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Biggs?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a report from the Historical Society. We met the 23rd of June for our first in-person meeting. We just wanted to make it aware to the public that the Porch Fest will be taking off this year. August 28th is the proposed date, as well as the Keeney Coolers, which will be 3 of them starting on July 13th. And they will be approaching the town council for the old academy. They're seeking to get the roof, as we all have seen, redone in order so they could get that copper bell and whatnot back working and get that into full swing. So that is something that is on their agenda. We don't know when they'll be coming to us for assistance with that, but that is something they wanted to make aware to everyone. And that is all that I have, Mayor.
Okay. It's going to take a couple ribbons of onions to pay for that roof, so.
Quite a bit, quite a bit.
And I think Councilman Forrest had alerted me that their rent is due
Yes,
shortly,
yes.
too. So we look forward to that sometime in the near.
Red onions, not a half row.
Yeah,
Yeah.
full rope. Yes.
Is there a number, Counselor, on that roof?
That is what I asked in the meeting. They are seeking that out now.
Because
That's
going to be like a cedar roof, I think, or something that's
to
fully.
restore it back to the historical requirements. It's going to be something.
And
So
sitting at the Charles, you can tell it's in rough shape.
And the cupola up there.
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
we've been
Complex.
watching it for a number of years, and maybe we can have a meeting with our legislative delegation for some bond money for that, would be nice. So, okay, any other reports from boards and commissions? Seeing none, we'll move on. Discussion items, I don't believe we have any. We do have some council actions to contend with. I believe there's a couple of resignations and appointments tonight on the agenda. So we'll first start off with resignations from boards and commissions. Mr. Deputy Mayor?
I'll make a motion to accept the following resignations. From Inland Wetlands and Conservation Commission, James Copa, Chair, 239 Crest Street, term is 7/6/20 to 6/30/23. And from Parks and Recreation Board, Stathis Manousis, 136 Windmill Hill, a term of 7/1/19 to 6/30/22.
Okay, motion's been made on the resignations and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. And I believe we have some, not only appointments that were on the agenda, but we do have a handful of walk-in appointments tonight as well.
Page full.
Oh, like 10 minutes before the meeting? Bad email?
Okay.
Make a
So,
motion to appoint the following people to boards and commissions. To the Weathersfield Heritage Commission, Betty Standish, 278 Hartford Avenue, 7/6/21 to 6/30/24. From Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, Joseph Soya, 30 Hedgerow, to fill a vacancy, 7/6/21 to 6/30/22. A municipal agent for children, Erica Texera, a town employee, 7/6/21 to 6/30/23. Design and Review Advisory Committee, Bruce Boxtail, 10 Pasture Trail, 7/6/21 to 6/30/24. Municipal Agent for the Elderly, Christine Taylor, Town Employee, 7/6/21 to 6/30/23. Inland Wetlands and Conservation Commission, William Chase, 9 Westwood Lane, to fill a vacancy, I think that's supposed to say, 7/6/21 to 6/30/24. Parks and Recreation Board, Mary Frazier, 217 Prospect Street, 7/6/21 to 6/30/22. Personnel Appeals Board, Michelle Lavoy, 16 Westwood Drive, 7/6/21 to 6/30/24. Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, Kathy Bagley, Town Employee, 7/6/21 to 6/30/23. Amy Miller, Town Employee, 7/6/21 to 6/30/23. Sylvana Flattery, 60 Lancaster Road, 7/6/21, 6/30/23. Tree Warden Corey Christians, Town Employee, 7/6/21, 6/30/22. Youth Advisory Board, Eric Knapp, Weathersfield Police, 7/6/21, 6/30/22.
Motion has been made for these appointments. And a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Ayes have it. Okay, thank you. And Councilman Forrest, I did hear you. Yeah, this was a walk-in at the last minute. We did have some discussions with the town clerk. We were going to do both Republican and Democrat appointments. There are some more appointments to fulfill, but the word was that Democrats did not vote on their screening committee appointments. So those would be due on the...
They'll receive them on the 23rd after the vote on the 22nd.
Yep, and we'll probably take those up in the August meeting. Okay. That is it for, well, council action. Yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, that's it for council action. We do have minutes, though. They are the May 10th budget deliberations. I did talk to Sue earlier. They are catching up with the minutes for previous meetings as well as the hearing that took place last month. So if everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes, I'll give you a couple minutes now.
Move acceptance of the May 10th budget deliberation minutes.
Second.
Motion to adopt the minutes has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Or abstentions at all? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay, and we'll go back to public comments. Yes, sir. And I must say, Mr. Lynch, Mr. Clinch, it is good to see you up here. I don't think I've seen you back at the council chambers since last year, if I'm not mistaken.
This year, right.
Yep.
I want to thank Dan O'Connor for standing up for doing the right thing and standing and supporting the chief. I thought the ironic part about this is I moved here 47 years ago on the 1st of July. And when I read that the chief was first one on the force on the 4th of on 47 years ago, sort of rang a bell. I've been here. I think there was 3 police chiefs in my tenure and his tenure, and he was a good man. It wasn't. You didn't use common sense by that was a bad move on the part of the council to remove a guy that's spent 47 years on the police department, and it was an impeccable career that he had. And he whatever, I listened to it on television, and I thought it was a beef between two people, then they just, one guy thought he had a little more power than the other guy, and he moved in, and it was a bad situation. I'm ashamed to say that I live in Weathersfield. This is the first move that I felt that was so unnecessary, and it just was a bad thing. People ask me, "Oh, do you live in Weathersfield?" I say, "Yeah." What the hell are they thinking about? They're doing such a move like that. It's a terrible thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Mr. Young?
Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I'd like to continue on that discussion I had with you folks a few minutes ago. You know, it took over a year for me to get the appraisal for the Keisha farm, which is kind of extensive, I think, since I had made application to the town manager for an FOI and got turned down and was unavailable, and it was not available to us. It took, well, almost over a year for me to get the appraisal. And on the appraisal, it came, first of all, the appraisal that I got in the middle of the night was 2 appraisals. They equaled $1.7 million. When the town finally released it, they had $2 million. And let me explain what happened. They had 2 appraisals, the north side of Highland and the south side. One for $1.4 million, the other for $320 million. And the date on that was April 20th, 2018. Now, we had the referendum that November. When the town finally gave me the appraisals, they included another one. Another one dated April 9th, 2019. A year later, it was written. A year later. And it was for the house. When in fact, they negotiated having only 2 appraisals in their hand at $1.7 million, and the town had to do something because I was belly aching. And they come up with a year difference in appraisals. You want to talk about criminals? Right here are criminals. The town of Weathersfield. And those people that sat on this town council, they should be reprimanded in a professional manner. Unfortunately, we had COVID that came along to save them, because otherwise I would have been up at the Superior Court screaming for justice, because this is something that should still go for justice. We overpaid, and you gave us 2 different sets of appraisals, a year difference. And why was this one made? Why? Only a crooked government would do this. Honest people don't do things like this. Hold back, refuse to give to the citizens who actually paid for it, and then hold back and give us something a year later that's written. Mr. Forrest, you're an attorney. Is this the way you guys do work? I mean, you sat on this council as an attorney, well, not as an attorney, but as a citizen, but you are an attorney, which really puts a big cloud over your head. And the citizens took it hook, line, and sinker. That, and you made a statement, which I don't have with me at the moment. I have it at home. I'll bring it next time. where you had decided that it was a good price. And you knew all along that the appraisals were dishonest. And who is the one who wrote the appraisals? Some company from down on the coast who lost from the state of Connecticut the right to do appraisals for them because they overpriced a property in the millions that the DOT, Connecticut DOT, said was only worth $450,000, or in that range. And they lost the contracts. They lost the ability to do contracts for the state of Connecticut, but they did ours. Talk about more. So, here we are, we're stuck. We're stuck seeing our taxes going up on a regular basis. We've seen, maybe the last 2 years they were held at zero, Mayor, but I think they really should have dropped. They should have dropped 5, 6, 7% back each of those years. The first year, of course, you were new on the job as mayor. The second year, you should have had it all set up, but you didn't. And here we are, stuck with a piece of property as well. We buy fire engines. Look at our fire engine that we bought, in 2006? That now we're spending $170,000 on to have something fixed on it because of rust? How many times have you seen a rusty fire engine? Those guys are washing it all the time. How could rust get in somewhere when they're washing it all the time and keeping it nice and shiny? They keep it nice and shiny like an undertaker takes care of his hearse. It's gotta look good. But anyway, Mayor, you got some problems, you've had problems. I don't know if you're ever gonna fix the problems, but my taxes keep coming up. I just got my bill, and I expected to see it go down. I knew it wasn't coming down because I attended the meeting. And at that meeting, I was pretty amazed at how Mr. Forrest kept wanting to take that zero and increase it,
We're over 5 minutes.
Everybody should go and watch that presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anybody else? Okay. I believe we got a vote to go into executive session. All those in favor of executive session signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We will be in executive session.